So if I take this microphone, rotate it like this, then it's going to pick up this side of the room, but it's not going to pick up this side. Axemas is musical theater, and we're recording the cast album. Now, if you're not familiar with this type of recording, and even if you're not ever going to record a musical, this may help you with new ideas. These days, most people who record themselves doing a single vocal are using a mono mic's cardioid pickup pattern. That's a great choice for that purpose. The word cardioid means heart-shaped and refers to the area in which the pickup pattern will have its best reproduction at the address side of the microphone. So it looks like a heart if you diagram it. In this situation, we've also used a figure-8 pattern and some clever positioning to be able to record mono and stereo at the same time. Okay, so here are the basics. As I have previously mentioned, this endeavor is controlled chaos. For one thing, there was no time to audition the mic setup, so it had to work right away. Also, nobody would geek out with me on it. I wanted to say, hey, I'm going to use the, everybody's like, oh, we're sure you did the right thing. It's like, okay, fine. So that meant that I was doubly anxious about it because there was nobody to blame but me if it didn't work right. Secondly, even though I perused the score pretty thoroughly before the session started, the score in this kind of music is ambiguous enough that you don't know all the details immediately, like you would, say, in a classical score. The cast is 9 people. They sometimes sing all together, sometimes they're solos, sometimes they're dialogue, and there's lots of combinations. Very often 9 people in a room or these 2 rooms. So I needed to create the space for all of it, where we could make decisions, try new things immediately. And there was no time for setup. That thing where you spend the first hour on a kick drum is not a thing here. We were already recording 8 minutes after the session start. In addition to my control room, I have 2 rooms here. One is 10 feet by 15 feet, and the other is 8 feet by 5 feet. These 2 rooms are known as the Red Room and the Booth. We're in the Red Room. As I said, 10 by 15 feet. It has the piano in it, so given the size, I thought that basically a few mics would work. So I settled on 3, 2 stereo mics and 1 center mic. We're using these 3 mics in a few different ways. We're using them for groups without soloists. We're using them for duets where there's no group, but like 1 person in the booth and 1 person in here. And we're using them for groups that have some solos interspersed in them. Now the booth, 8 by 5, that's biggish for a vocal booth, but it's not huge. And we have 2 mics in cardioid that are spot mics, meaning somebody stands in front of them in that way I described earlier. And then we have 2 mics for stereo room pickup, which are in a coincident pattern. And a little more about the Red Room setup. We're using an AKG C414 ULS, which is one of the earlier versions of a 414. I'm sure you've seen these around. It's really nice. It's one I've had for many years. And we're using 2 Royer 122 mics in a spaced XY pattern. Now, those 122s are ribbon mics, and ribbon mics are known for mellower sound. Ribbon mics almost always have a figure 8, and that gives you good rejection on the side. Rejection meaning that it won't pick up the sides. So, if this is the front of the microphone, right? Right here, there will be an area where the sound is picked up. Right here, there'll be an area where the sound is picked up. Here or here, not so much. That is got pretty good rejection in it. So if I take this microphone, rotate it like this, then it's going to pick up this side of the room, but it's not going to pick up this side because this side rejects. And this side goes off to nowhere, and this side it's 10 dB less. It's a small amount of reflections from the wall. But as you can see, things are pretty well treated here at this point. And then when the other mic mirrors it, you get a really good integrated stereo sound. Just to consider the layout a little more. With the stereo mics, each one is pointed at an opposite side of the room, then it's on, just like I demonstrated there. So the left points to the right and the right points to the left. Gives you that sound stage. In addition, the 414 is holding up the center. And so if you have a section which feels like it's got a hole in the middle, the 414 can come in and bring in a little bit of centering to it. And then on the other hand, you can cut the 414, and then solos that you get, say, from someone in the booth or an overdub can cut straight through the middle, and so you can have space. So that, to me, was a good way to approach it. Now, the idea, in my mind, was the bigger the group is, the more stereo would be utilized. So we just move people forward and back to balance the individual singers. And then the other idea is that the center mic is utilized more when a single person or multiple soloists are working the mic, in addition to filling the hole. When we're mixing, we often position soloists more towards the center. And so this gives us the ability to do that. It also gives us the ability to pan in different directions. Now, the booth setup was a similar philosophy. We can get as many as 4 people in the booth, I would say, even 5. So with 9 people, that's basically half of them. And sometimes we wanted to isolate parts. So there are a number of places in the score where it was a rhythmic unison, but there were a top note and a bottom note. So it would be like a harmony, but in unison rhythmically. And so what we were able to do was to put one note in that room, another note in this room, and that gave us the opportunity to mix and match takes, because if take 1 was good in the booth and take 2 is good in the studio, we could just put them together. That would be fine. It also gives us the ability to fix some rhythmic things or even do a little pitching if we need to. Now, also in the booth, the stereo mics were there for glue. And there were KM187s with cardioid capsules, which I would have rather had another capsule, but the room's so small that it wasn't a serious liability. The spot mics were a Neumann U87 and a Neumann TLM 103. Those are both large diaphragm condensers. As a matter of fact, they have the same capsule in them. The difference between a U87 and a TLM 103 is that the TLM 103 does not have a transformer, and the U87 did. And it made for some interesting stuff. You think, every session you learn something. And so I took out the TLM 103 and the U87, and I just put my voice in front of it, and I made some sounds, and I thought, oh, these sound pretty similar. But then, once we got them into battle situations, they didn't sound similar at all. And basically, they sounded very close when you had someone who sounded like an operatic baritone, sounded a lot closer on each of the 2 mics than someone who's a character actor, where it made a big difference where the character actor was. And it got to the point to where we're calling the 87 the magic dust mic, because it has zhuzh to it. It's got warmth in the upper register. It's got like a nice presence in the lower bass. And so my tests on my voice did not show me at all what was really going to happen in the session, and that was very interesting. Now, as far as the recording process is concerned, we always recorded all the mics in a given room. And the reason why is because of mixing. Because sometimes you want just the single mic where you can pan it and you have total control over where it is on the sound stage. Sometimes you want the single mic plus the stereo, where you can pan the single mic and the stereo is there and it adds some width to it. Sometimes you want just the stereo and no single mic. And this way of working in both of the rooms gave us all options. Remember, this was chaotic, and we had a little less than 30 hours to capture all of this. And so we needed to be able to make changes on the fly. Secondly, this was done like a rock record, not straight through. Now, I have been on Broadway sessions where a Broadway cast album was done, and the cast was in production. So they're doing 8 shows a week. All of their stage direction and the way they deliver their dialogue lines is set. So they don't have to go through it a bunch of times. They're totally seasoned. In this case, this cast was made up of people culled from various productions over the course of the last 3 years. And this is not Fiddler on the Roof. This is a show that is currently being developed. So there was a lot of room for interpretation. We needed both the flexibility to be able to do things creatively in the recording process. Oh, move from this mic to that mic. Let's switch rooms, all that kind of stuff. But also the way people delivered their lines was another thing. Even new notes were written while we were here in the studio. So there was a lot of stuff like that. And we also wanted to double some of the parts, especially the sung group parts. And the orchestration is new because they had only had one rehearsal with the orchestration, the new orchestration. And that was on a Sunday, and then we showed up this Monday to start recording. So that's the deal about this aspect of the Axemas story recording. See you soon. Anybody have any thoughts and feelings?
Yeah, y'all feel good about this? You know where we are?
Can you, sorry, I just...
So we're going to start, you're going to hear from measure 71, and then you're going to pick up with your dialogue at 74, Isabel.
Okay.
Perfect!
Okay. I'm just going to play a couple of bars.
Oh!
Okay, so that's it. Just so
Perfect!
Just like that.
Yeah, that was good. Okay, here we go.
Oh, well, I guess the main reason you wrote this show was so that we would know what to do at the next reckoning.
Oh, small Paulette, there isn't going to be a next reckoning. There hasn't been a reckoning in years. But if those pesky humans ever do come back, you can just do this little dance.
Perfect.